What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 168 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, June 22nd, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of basketball. And Knicks fans continue to celebrate the first title in 53 years. First title since 1973. The Knicks win the NBA title. They had the parade on Thursday in the Canyon of Heroes in Lower Manhattan. And obviously all Knicks fans are just basking in the glory right now, really feeling good about their Knicks. And this city is absolutely beside itself that the Knicks have come this way. And really going into the season, yes, the expectation is to win an NBA title, but when it really comes to fruition, Knicks fans are really beside themselves and just so happy and overjoyed with what they've seen from the Knicks so far this season. But right now, it's a little bit different this time of year where the Knicks, most of the time, looking towards the NBA draft, who they're going to get, what's going to happen with this Knicks team in the future. Knicks fans look forward to the NBA draft now, but they're on the opposite side of it. They got a late round pick and they can feel really good about it and just adding to what they have in this championship roster. Of course, the Knicks are going to lose some guys in free agency. I think the biggest one being Mitchell Robinson, the big down low. He's probably not going to take a pay cut to come back to New York. Going to get paid, and he rightfully so will deserve the high pay raise that he'll get from signing with another team in free agency, though. So they're probably going to lose him. And of course, the Knicks are going to have to replace Mitchell Robinson's services, a guy that's really good on both sides of the floor, the shot blocker that he is down low, and a presence in the paint. Where he, on the offensive side of the ball, again, a presence in the paint with offensive rebounds, obviously a lob threat as well. The Knicks have to replace him. It's not going to be easy, but they can try and chip away at it by drafting one of these high-level prospects coming out into the NBA draft this season. The 2026 NBA draft does start tomorrow, and it will continue on Wednesday with the second round. But as for tomorrow, the Knicks have 3 picks in this year's draft. They have the number 24 pick. They also have the 31st overall pick, which is the first pick in the second round. And then they have number 55 late in the second round. And really looking at this Knicks team, I think they're probably going to take one of those 2 picks, 24 or 31. I would think 24 and then trade 31. Obviously, that's a valuable pick being the first pick of the second round. A lot of teams go into day 2 really looking for a guy that's still on the board, so the Knicks could get some good value out of that. Right now for 24, though, you look at a couple of guys that they could go after. The first one, in my opinion, being Henry Vassar, the center out of North Carolina, a guy who played a couple years down at Arizona under Tommy Lloyd, then goes to North Carolina for this past season. He's a guy who could be a stretch 4, stretch 5, but a guy who's also over 7 feet tall, and he's going to be a presence down low, trying to replace what Mitchell Robinson did on the defensive side of the ball. So that's one guy that you're looking at, Henry Vassar, really big man down low. He would have a great time behind Karl Anthony Towns. And really looking at it, the Knicks do just need a backup big man. They don't need that high-level starter. Of course, Cat is still there, and he'll be doing his thing. It's a guy that can come off the bench, give you something a little bit different than what Cat offers, and also gives you that ability on the defensive side of the ball to really step up for this Knicks team down low in the paint. So Henry Vassar is one guy. Another guy that I'm looking at is Chris Sinak Jr., a little bit of a younger guy who can come in a little bit not as proven just yet, with 1 year under his belt at Houston, but a guy who really plays defensive basketball and under a coach like Kelvin Sampson down at Houston. He really got that drilled into him this past season. Defense, and then you focus on offense. And the hard-nosed type of defense that Kelvin Sampson likes to play with his Cougars. I think Chris Sinak Jr., a little bit less experience. That's what I'm saying. Obviously, the difference between him and a guy like Vassar, who's had plenty of years in college ball. Sinak, though, a younger guy, maybe with a higher potential in the end if you could push the right button. So he could be a really good guy to go after. And then finally, the third guy is not as much of a big man, more of a 4, maybe even a 3. And it's just the potential that this guy has as an NBA prospect. That's Koa Pete out of Arizona. I mean, what a player could be on the board for the Knicks team at number 24. What a player he can be for the Knicks in the future. I think Koa Pete is probably on the outside just a little bit because the Knicks are looking for specifically a big and a tall center to replace Robinson. But if they do grab Koa Pete, I mean, that is a dangerous prospect. Adding him to this Knicks roster, he can really have an impact for the Knicks in this upcoming season right away when he steps into the NBA, the freshman, and going into his sophomore year out of Arizona. So we'll see what happens with this Knicks team, but Knicks fans, get used to this kind of feeling. It's late in the year, and of course, the Knicks win the NBA championship, and look how quickly the NBA draft comes up after the season is over. And Knicks fans will take that any day of the week. They got an NBA title, the first since 1973, and the NBA draft will start tomorrow. We'll see what the Knicks have to offer as Tuesday's 2026 NBA draft takes place at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. But let's shift things to baseball as both New York teams were in action this weekend, and we start things out in Philadelphia, where the New York Mets were not doing well. They did start off strong on Thursday, but they end up getting clobbered in the next couple of games, and they lose 2 out of 3 to the Philadelphia Phillies. That was after the Mets lost 2 out of 3 to the Cincinnati Reds. That one was at Great American Ballpark out in Cincinnati, but the Mets ended up winning 2 straight games in that little stretch there. Won 9-1 on Wednesday, then 6-4 on Thursday. It did start off strong in this series for the New York Mets, where they took on the Phillies down in Philadelphia, and Juan Soto was the story. He homered twice in this game, 2 solo bombs, and the Mets got out to a 2-0 lead in the first inning, and that was really the jumpstart that this Mets team needed against Aaron Nola, who's been mediocre so far for Philadelphia this season. But I think going into this game, they knew that they would have to face Christopher Sanchez on Saturday, face Zach Wheeler on Sunday. You had to get a win on Thursday against Aaron Nola, and that's exactly what the Mets did. So give credit to the Mets offense that had 11 hits, 6 runs scored. They put up a 2 spot in the first. They put up a 3 spot in the 7th, and they end up winning it the final 6-4 down in Philadelphia. Then it was a World Cup game down in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field on Friday with Brazil taking on Haiti, and that pushed the Mets-Phillies series to then Saturday, an off day on Friday, little unorthodox there, but then they have the Saturday-Sunday game, both on national television, one on Fox on Saturday, and then NBC Sunday Night Baseball on Sunday night. And when you look at these 2 games, they frankly just were not close. And when you look at Saturday's game to start things off, Christopher Sanchez on the mound, and it's not great when you are all of a sudden down 11-0 midway through the 3rd inning. You can't write that. And that's exactly what the Mets have gone through in this stretch of games. The starting pitchers have just been terrible. The last 12 games, they have an ERA over 7.5. It was Freddie Peralta who got absolutely clobbered in this game. He goes 2 2/3, 10 hits, 10 earned with 1 walk, 2 Ks, 80 pitches. He's out of the game. I mean, you cannot make it up. Freddie Peralta, a guy who came in, supposed to be the ace of this staff. He was really good in Milwaukee all those years. They go and trade for him, a couple of prospects for him. And Freddie Peralta right now, after this game, has an ERA of 4.83. Nowhere close. I mean, you might as well put him next to David Peterson and Kodai Senga. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but Freddie Peralta has not been good, and he got trucked down in Philadelphia. That's almost the benchmark for Mets fans. If you could do well against the Phillies, against the Braves, they don't really care too much how you do against everybody else. If you do well against those teams and you're struggling against everybody else, okay, you can have a bit of optimism. You figure things out. Freddie Peralta has not been good this year. And of course, 10 earned runs against the Phillies is not going to cut it for Mets fans who are already calling for him to be out the door at the end of the year, not even sign him once he gets to free agency. I mean, that is crazy right now. Nobody expected that when the Mets traded for him earlier in the season or before the season even started. And of course, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber on the other side were really the stories of this game. 4 for 5, both of them. Harper hits for the cycle. Schwarber hits 3 bombs into right field. I mean, crazy stuff by both these guys, and the Mets end up losing it 15-3. Freddie Peralta moves to 5-6 on the year with the ERA, like I said, at 4.86. Just unimaginable right now for Peralta and the Mets. But when you go into Sunday's game, then it's Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Phillies, and it's David Peterson on the mound for the Mets. Starting in this starter role, David Peterson is, of course, the Mets do not have plenty of options anymore. Really struggling to find guys when you look at this rotation. They are just depleted with injuries with some guys, Christian Scott, Clay Holmes being the most notable out of the rotation right now due to injuries. And then you have David Peterson one day, you got Kodai Senga the next day, then you have Nolan McLean, who's been so actually pitched well on Thursday, but then you also have Freddie Peralta, who got blown up by the Phillies, 10 earned runs just a couple of days ago. I mean, looking at this Mets team, they just got to figure things out, just piecing guys into the rotation, and it's not easy right now, especially once you're down in games so early like the Mets have been for the last couple of weeks. And you look at this Sunday night baseball game against the Phillies down at Citizens Bank Park, and it was Zach Wheeler on the mound, who came into this game at 6-1 on the year. David Peterson came in at 3-5, and it was Peterson who got trucked among these starting pitchers in this one, and in the blink of an eye, the Mets are down 5-0 at the end of 2. It just cannot be that way. The Mets going into games have to know that their starting pitchers maybe aren't going to do that well right now. Of course, they want to believe a different way. Their offense has so much pressure on them to put up runs in a hurry after the Mets go down super early in games. It's not going to work out for this Mets team. They have to be better when it comes to their starting rotation. I mean, I mentioned it. In the last 12 games, the Mets, their starting pitchers, 2-7 record, and then they have an ERA over 7.5. They do not pitch well. They've had 6 starts. 6 of the 12 starts have come with 4+ earned runs by the starting pitcher. It cannot happen. It's too early in games for the Mets to come back after their starting pitcher allows 4 earned runs, 5 earned runs. Freddie Peralta allowed 10 earned runs. That cannot happen. And this Mets team is behind the 8 ball right away in this game, in these games. And the offense has so much pressure on them to then come back and put up runs against tough pitchers. Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler. Those guys don't give up runs pretty easily right now. And of course, the Mets have to really bounce back on offense every single game because they feel like, oh, well, we put up 2 runs, we put up 3 runs. That's not enough in the end, but what else can this offense do? They also have injuries on offense. So it's been a disaster right now, to say the least, for this Mets team. And of course, it started off very poor in this game. I mentioned 5-0 was the score as the Phillies with Kyle Schwarber, hit a 3-run bomb into right center field, and Peterson was knocked out of the game through 4 innings, 6 hits allowed, 5 runs, 4 earned with 2 walks, 5 Ks. He pitched 79 pitches, and then right when he comes out of the game, who's up? Oh, it's Bryce Harper, who then hits a bomb into right field off of Austin Warren. And just when you think maybe the Mets still have a chance, it's 5-1. It's all of a sudden 6-1. And it finished 6-2 the final as the Phillies take 2 out of 3 from the Mets, who now fall to 9 games under 500. Just a terrible time for the Mets, and they try to piece things together. But right now, when this Mets rotation, you look at the injuries that they have with Clay Holmes and Christian Scott both on the IL, and now you go from David Peterson After Freddie Peralta gave up 10 earned on Saturday, you have David Peterson on Sunday. He gets a loss. Now you have to go all of a sudden to Kodai Senga, who has an ERA of 9. He's 0-5 on the year, and he starts tonight. A 7-10 start out at Citi Field. Shota Imanaga, the lefty for Chicago, takes on the righty in Kodai Senga at Citi Field. And right now, you just got to rack up wins somehow, but it's not easy when you have starting pitchers that are coming into games struggling mightily off of their last couple of starts. And Kodai Senga with an ERA over 14 over his last 4 starts, not going to cut it. And this Mets offense, again, has so much pressure on them to be great every single night. It's just not going to work like that in the game of baseball. And Shota Imanaga, 4-6 on the year, 4.26 ERA. He's not going to get blown up for 10 runs, you won't think. But of course, that's what the Mets offense needs because Kodai Senga's on the mound and anything can happen. We will see what happens with this game tonight. Of course, it is weather dependent. A lot of rain in the New York area, and that should be a question for tonight's staff and what will happen with the weather at Citi Field tonight. So it may be a doubleheader tomorrow. We'll see what happens with that. But the New York Mets take on the Chicago Cubs. It's a 4-game set out at Citi Field, and it all starts tonight. A 7-10 start with Imanaga and Senga out in Queens. Let's finish things off today on the other side of New York as the New York Yankees were also in action this weekend, and all of a sudden after the Yankees had won 8 of their last 9, they then dropped 3 of their last 4. A bad series against the Cincinnati Reds. Looked pretty good on Friday, where Cam Schlittler was on the mound. And most times this season, Cam Schlittler has done the job for the Yankees. He goes 6 innings in this one with 4 hits allowed, no runs, no walks, 13 strikeouts, 96 pitches, the ERA at 1.71, and he is definitely the odds-on favorite right now for the American League Cy Young. Great year so far for Schlittler, and he continues to roll against a Reds team that is without Elly De La Cruz. He's obviously dealing with an injury still on the injured list right now, and the Reds have felt the effects of missing De La Cruz in their lineup, but all of a sudden after the 5-0 loss on Friday, it's a bounce-back effort for Cincinnati on Saturday. Will Warren on the mound for the Yankees, and he tried to control things, but it just got out of hand at one point, and Will Warren does not get charged for a lot of the runs that came in. It was 5 2/3. He went 8 hits allowed. He allowed 6 runs with only 2 of them earned. 2 walks and 8 Ks in the game for Warren, and he ends up getting charged with his 2nd loss of the year. He's been really solid. He was 7-1 coming into the game. He goes to 7-2 now. And of course, Andrew Abbott on the other side was really strong for the Reds. It was Paul Goldschmidt who started off really hot for the Yankees. First inning, he hits a bomb into right center field to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead, but it was all Reds after that. Sal Stewart hits a 2-run double, then hits a sac fly. Spencer Steer really gave the big blow to Will Warren's day with a 3-run bomb into left center field to make it 6-1 Cincinnati. It would finish 10-2 as the Reds win the 2nd game of the 3-game set, and then they would win the 3rd game as well as Chase Burns, who's been so good on the mound. He's been so good in the National League as well. Another guy who on the other side could be challenging for the National League Cy Young. Of course, they need to continue to rack up wins, the Reds do. Of course, 2 games now under 500 after they win a couple in the Bronx against the Yankees. But really the story of the game was that the Yankees pushed back their rotation a day. They called up Elmer Rodriguez from AAA Scranton, and then they had Elmer start against the Reds. He gets charged with the loss. He's 0-2 on the year. 4 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned with 2 walks, 4 Ks. It was the 3-run bomb. Back-to-back days with a 3-run bomb. Steer yesterday, Stevenson on Saturday, Stevenson yesterday with a 3-run bomb into left center field to give the Reds a 3-1 lead after Ben Rice hit a solo bomb off of Chase Burns to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the 3rd. But it was Stevenson, and then it was a ground rule double by Noelvi Marte, who gives the Reds a 4-1 lead. That's how it would finish. And Chase Burns goes 5 innings, 5 hits, with 1 earned, 3 walks, and 7 Ks. The ERA at 2.00. Really good stuff from Burns in the game, and he ends up getting the win for Cincinnati to move to 9-1 on the year. The Yankees now travel out to Detroit as they start a 6-game road trip, and it's going to be some tough matchups. We'll see actually how things work out. It does go up against a Detroit team that is really struggling this year and a Boston team that is also struggling this year. It could be difficult, though. There are some good guys on the mound for both of their opponents, and we'll see how that goes for this Yankees team. It's a 3-game set out in Detroit, then a 4-game set up at Fenway, and then it starts all of it starts tonight. It's a 6:10 start out in Detroit. It's Gerrit Cole on the mound up against Framber Valdez, and Gerrit Cole on the year 2-1, 2.57 ERA, 28 innings pitched, and Framber Valdez on the other side, not great so far this year, 3-5, 4.09 ERA. Obviously got that big contract this offseason from the Tigers, so he's trying to bounce back, and the Yankees still, after they end up winning 8 of 9, they lose 3 of 4. The Yankees are 16 games over 500. I mean, it's still hard to fathom how good this Yankees team, even when they're losing. They're without Aaron Judge right now. The best hitter in baseball is not in the lineup. The Yankees still 16 games over 500. Crazy stuff. They don't have Max Fried in the rotation either. 16 games over 500. Really good stuff right now from this Yankees team, even though they've lost 3 of 4. I mean, this regular season, they are just zooming through it. We'll see if the Yankees can continue that at Comerica Park. Gerrit Cole, Framber Valdez, 6:10 start out in Detroit. Make sure you tune into that one later. But that will do it for episode 168 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Friday.